Bluepoint Games and Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios have been working on Demon's Souls for 3 years now, and today we finally got some new gameplay footage to feast our eyes upon, including a glimpse at 2 bosses. On top of that, Gavin Moore, who's the creative director at Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios, he's been interviewed by a few different outlets through which we've managed to learn a bunch of new information about the remake, which I'm going to cover here while you watch and salivate over how awesome the game looks. I mean, just look at that, it looks fantastic. And just in case you didn't know, From Software, who created the original Demon's Souls, they're not involved with this remake. However, they did give their blessing to the devs, so yeah, they're right behind it. If you're wondering how close to the original game this one will be, wonder no more. What they did was they took the original Demon's Souls game and they basically ported it into the PS5, from where they looked at all the elements of the game that were absolutely essential to the core and heart and soul of it, and then they stripped away the rest. Oh, and here we're entering the first boss in the new gameplay. This is the Armored Spider, and damn, it looks so damn cool. So back to what I was talking about, they stripped away all the rest and left the key elements of the core game, and then they built everything new around that. So you could say the game at its core level is going to feel one-to-one with the original, but that there will be new stuff to experience around that. A part of that new stuff included a bunch of new motion capture recording to replace the movements of characters from the original, which, according to Gavin Moore, that was one of the hardest things the devs had to do, because they had to try to create brand new motion capture movement, but then they had to align that movement with the cadence of the original to maintain the original game's feel. And that'll be interesting to see how that plays out with the new camera system. The game has a modern camera now, the 11-year-old camera that was in the original has been replaced, but what's really cool is it isn't forced upon you. If you want to play with the old camera and glitch into walls and suffer all those old camera issues, it's still in the game as an option. And as you can see, magic is still in the game, but now the magic looks really cool with the way the lighting follows all the magic bolts that you're hurling out. Very, very cool. The game does have a bunch of extra quality of life improvements, but there are no difficulty options in the game. Nothing's been added, there's no easy mode, which is just the way it should be. Although in saying that, I could argue that there maybe is a slight easier mode added, because in the options you can now select to play at 4K 60 frames per second, which is the performance mode, or you can play 4K 30 frames per second, which is the cinematic mode. The cinematic mode will feel a bit more like the original game, only the visuals will be off the scale, whereas the performance mode is obviously as it sounds and will feel way better. And we all know how much easier 60 frames per second can make a game like this compared to 30, so technically maybe that's an easy mode, but no actual difficulty modes have been added. Speaking of difficulty, world tendency hasn't been changed. You'll still have black and white world tendencies, where black tendency makes enemies tougher and drops are better, while white tendency makes it easier and drops aren't quite as good. That's if you're offline, of course, since that's only affected by you if you're offline. If you're online, the world's tendency will swing according to how the community as a whole is playing the game. Hey, they also made some slight UI changes to help you see what the world tendency is, which was something not so easily done in the original. You can't see that here, as there appears to be an option to turn the UI off completely. I'm not 100% on whether or not that option exists and whether they've turned it off for this gameplay demo or not, but I'm going to assume with all the options they've provided in the game, and there are a lot, that is one of the options you've got. And speaking of online play, not much about how the multiplayer system works has been changed either. You can still get invaded when you least want to be invaded, or you can be the guy doing the invading. Bloodstains still work the exact same way. They have expanded it though, so you can now be invaded by 3 invaders, and you can also call upon 2 allies to help you fight them if you want to. Oh, and this is the second boss, the Flame Lurker, who just looks amazing. That looks fantastic. Man, I cannot wait to fight this boss. Look at that, that just looks great. The animation's so smooth, that looks really cool. I can also see virtual photography being a big thing with this game. The new game has a photo mode, which the old game did not. If you choose to use photo mode, it will pause the game, which is kind of a pause function the old game didn't have either. But don't think it completely pauses the game, because if you're online and you go into photo mode and you get invaded, the game will instantly pull you out of photo mode. On top of that, if you like looking at images, the game will also come with a gallery mode where you can check out concept art and behind the scenes images, so that's going to be pretty cool. So yeah, he dies here, you don't get to see the whole boss fight, but from here the new gameplay footage is left to just clips from the game, no more actual real gameplay. So yeah, I'll just show all of those and then I'll re-loop all the new footage over again because I'm not done. There's a bunch more info to share with you. So yeah, let's get into that. Another change that's been made to the game that doesn't actually affect core gameplay, but that does affect the gameplay experience, is that there are going to be virtually no load times. If you die, you'll be right back in the game hunting for your souls without having to wait for anything to load. If you touch an archstone, you'll be instantly transported to a new area. Apparently there's no delay with that transportation. And calling in other players will also be super fast, which veterans will understand as a great thing for helping with things like the old monk boss fight when playing online. Speaking of archstones, a lot of people were hoping that the remake would include a 6th archstone and a whole new area to explore, but sadly, that's not the case. The game is staying true to the original, so there'll be 5 unbroken archstones in the Nexus, and that's it. The devs apparently did discuss putting in a new part of the world, but they felt that it wasn't right to add to From's original game. They wanted to preserve what was already there, and only update it for a modern audience. Apparently there is some new content to find out in the world though. I don't know what that is, but there's no new part of the world, so yeah, no 6th archstone. But even though there's no new world added, there is a new mode added called Fractured World. Fractured World will be available in NG+, and it's apparently a mirror mode that reverses the map layout. So you can put the game into that mode and the whole world will flip over. Enemies will now come from the left instead of the right, and from the right instead of the left, and so forth. And word is, it makes the game feel completely new because you have to basically come to grips with an entirely new game layout. So it's kind of like playing a new game, so that'll be cool. While we're talking layout, nothing has been changed to the game in terms of layout, but in terms of environmental design, the layout will probably look different because there's been a lot of visual tweaks. What wasn't possible 11 years ago is possible now, and the devs have taken that on board. So to preserve the original look and feel, they've still gone out of their way, but they have souped up the visuals a lot in some areas. They've also added a bunch of filters to the game. You can play the game with a classic filter on to make it look like the original, or you can put on a darker and grittier filter. I don't know what other filters there are, but they did say there's a few you can choose from to play the game how you'd like it to look. So that sounds pretty cool. I love hearing that they've souped the game up visually, and just watching all of the gameplay footage that's been released so far, it looks absolutely phenomenal. It looks really amazing. I'll still be playing it in 60 frames a second for better performance, but I'll probably dabble in 4K 30 frames per second just to get the eye candy. However, despite all that, for me, the main part of playing Demon Souls or any Souls-like is the combat. What's really interesting to me is to hear that the devs have gone out of their way to keep the combat true to the original, even to the point of making sure all the AI logic has been unchanged. However, it's also going to feel a lot better, and that's for a variety of reasons. One of those reasons is obviously the difference between 60 frames per second and 30 frames per second, which makes a huge difference. But the other reason is the haptic feedback of the PlayStation's new controller. Word is, from a lot of people who've experienced it so far, it's a game changer. Early indications are with Demon Souls, it makes it feel so good to play. The haptic feedback itself helps you to feel when you're pulling off perfect parries, which in turn can help you parry like a god. I really can't wait for that. It's meant to be absolutely nothing like the rumbling that you've come to know with the old controllers. Instead, with this, you can really feel yourself pulling back the drawstring on a bow. You can really feel yourself striking metal against metal. And yeah, it just sounds like it's going to really change the whole feel of the game without actually changing the core feel of the game. Very interesting and hard to kind of imagine, but I'm really looking forward to testing that out. And if you're not a parry god and you like to roll and evade instead, well, there's good news on that front too. Rolling's been enhanced. They've introduced Omni-Directional Rolling, meaning you can now roll in 8 different directions. The combination of Omni-Directional Rolling and haptic feedback for your parrying is going to make combat so much richer and way more precise than ever before. And if you really don't want haptic feedback, you just want to roll around like that, there's a setting to turn haptic feedback off. Or if you don't want it to be as, full on as it sounding like it might be, you apparently can adjust how strong the haptic feedback is. So yeah, lots of options there. Another big change is the character creator is now meant to be awesome. It's got thousands of permutations for you to choose from to make your character look how you want. That is really awesome to hear and scares me a bit because I remember the 6 hours I spent in Neo 2's character creator before I even started the game, because I just can't help myself with wanting the look that I want. Additionally, after you've created your character, you'll also be able to pay a certain number of souls to store it and then go back and create a new look as you see fit. So that's a bunch of new information to digest. I was really keen as hell to play Demon's Souls Remake before, but now after hearing all of this, I'm more excited than ever. It just sounds incredible. November 12th can't come fast enough. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and hey, give the video a like if you found it helpful. Bye for now.